afternoon, maybe even good evening. So I have spent the whole afternoon listening to you all talk about what you're passionate about. And I'm so excited that now I can talk a little bit about what I'm passionate about. You heard a little bit there in the introduction, but really what I want to spend the next 30 minutes looking at is how all of you are going to conquer tomorrow, because there's a lot of goals up on this stage. So the future of leadership has never been more important than now. For your business, but of course for your people. I have a question for you, probably one of the many you've had today, but can you predict the future? I can, because everything will change. This I know for sure because it's already begun. And as a leader myself, I can tell you this, that it is the only constant in your leadership lifespan. All of the things that are changing around you, all those things that are changing, this is also for sure. How you lead, who you lead, and the approach to that is going to consistently change. Now, we're living in, I don't know if it's amazing or totally chaotic times out there in the world, right? But what's interesting about industrial revolutions is they have always fast-tracked process, machinery, factories, products. But this industrial revolution, the one we're in right now, the fourth industrial revolution, is making one massive shift. And it's affecting people for the first time. And it's affecting leadership for the first time. None of those other industrial revolutions affected people like you guys in your roles. This one right now is, and it's affecting who you lead and how you lead. For the first time in history, we have 4 generations in the same workplace. That is a vastly different group of people. So in many businesses that I work with, you may have your chairperson who may be in their 70s. You then have your C-suite who may be in their late 50s or 60s. You have your senior management that may be in their 40s. And then you have people coming in at the bottom who could be 19, or in some of these technical trades, even younger. So the reality across society within your business is you have 4 entirely different generations of opinions and needs and contexts that you as leaders are going to have to handle. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite leaders, which is Satya Nadella. He is the 3rd CEO of Microsoft and is often quoted as being one of the most successful CEOs in the world. Now, he was known to say that as leaders, all of you in this room, one of our goals is to empower humans to achieve more. But how are you going to get your people to do more? Well, I'd like to tell you a story from Satya. And he tells this story in his book, which is called Hit Refresh, which I hugely recommend. Satya started in Microsoft, and I saw many of you stand up in the game just now, showing how long you've been here. Satya Nadella is similar. He's been in Microsoft since he was 20 years old. And when he went for his interviews, right back in the beginning, he did a whole day of technical tests and software tests and all these kind of algorithms. And he got to the very last interview of the day, and he sat with the vice president. And the VP said to him, "Satya, I have one question for you. If you see a small child on the floor, on the ground, alone and crying, what would you do?" And Satya said that immediately. He said, "Well, I'd call 911. And the VP got him up, walked him to the door, and said, "Satya, my friend, if you see a child crying on the floor, you pick it up. You're going to need a lot more empathy if you're going to make it in Microsoft." Now, Satya went on to take that very seriously. He has entrenched empathy into nearly every area of his business. Yes, it's in leadership, it's in product innovation, it's in research. You heard people today talking about understanding the end consumer, understanding your partners. He built this into Microsoft and has since returned $1 trillion in 6 years. So I think it's safe to say he's done quite well. Now, when he talks about empathy, he says this. He says most people think empathy is something that you reserve for a friend or your family, but the reality is it's an existential business priority. When we look at leadership that you are all going to need to succeed, as I gave away at the beginning, I think a huge amount of this sits in empathy. But I'm also going to bet that a lot of you in the room, language aside, perhaps have different definitions of what empathy is. Empathy is your ability to recognize, acknowledge the viewpoint or reality of the other people around you. It is not an emotion, ever, under any circumstances. Empathy is a skill set. If one of your biggest clients calls and says, "Hi, I know we've worked together for 10 years, but I'm moving the contract elsewhere," empathy is the skill set to say, "Let me understand why." If you have new talent coming into your team that aren't responding to the packages that they used to respond to, your empathy is your skill set to understand why. If one of your top salespeople says they're thinking about resigning, empathy is the skill set to understand why. This is humanity's data set. You guys have a lot of data. I've seen a lot of dashboards up here today. This one is for your people. It will help you understand your teams, your clients, your stakeholders, yes, your board of directors and why they're making the decisions they are, but also your customers. It's going to enable you to balance what I know is important here at Daikin, which is trust, responsibility, and growth. Because fundamentally, understanding is behind all three. That is what organizational empathy is. We're talking about understanding in your business, and it will future-proof you. It will help you mitigate risk. It will help you reach those growth goals. It will help you work with the talent you need to achieve the goals you've been talking about today. But there's one problem, minor. We're suffering with a huge empathy deficit. Back in 2006, Barack Obama, before he became president, addressed an audience. And he said to them, "I know we should be talking about our federal deficit, but I think we should be talking about our empathy deficit." He was the first of what became many global leaders to coin this term. But us being us, we're so busy trying to double the business and do all the other things we do in our lives, we ignored it for many years. This has been 16 years since he said it. And we are in the depths of a 30-year decline. Now, when I tell you that empathy is an evolutionary skill set, we literally cannot live without it, okay? This will future-proof human beings. We're not meant to be alone. That's why COVID was so hard. We're pro-social creatures. Imagine doing your job, each one of you, all alone. Could you do it? No. There's no way we can do it alone. Now, when you realize that this evolutionary skill set that makes us human, we have lost 48% of it in 30 years. It is behind so many of our mental health problems. It is behind the loneliness endemic that is plaguing our world. It is partly behind the biggest cost to our healthcare system worldwide, which is depression. We have nearly 400 million people with depression. Guys, this is epic numbers of unhappy people in our world. We are segregated, we are isolated, and we are not working together. But the good news is that when I started talking about this, nobody knew about it. But the good news is that is changing. If you Google this evening, empathy and whatever your passion point, technology, innovation, growth, marketing, customer experience, whatever it is, you will find a conversation. It's trending in the corporate world, the political world, the medical world, because businesses all around the planet are realizing if we don't reconnect as people, we simply can't grow as fast as the businesses that do connect with their people. And swiftly, it is becoming the leadership skill to have. Many headhunters around the world will tell you today, particularly in the developed markets, that in the top 3 skill sets for all C-suite roles is empathy, is the ability to understand other people. Because how can you lead people if you don't understand them? Now, the good news is we're not born with a fixed amount of it. So probably the biggest question I get asked in these events is, but Mimi, maybe you've just got more empathy than everybody else, okay? But I don't. You all have the same amount of empathy. It is built into your prefrontal cortex. As I said, this is evolutionary. It is created to help you survive. When you were born, you were all born with the same amount of it. Because it's a skill set, the more you practice it, the more of it you'll have. When you don't use it, you lose it. Now, empathy has 2 enemies. One is high stress, the other is low time. And I would bet if I asked you all to put your hands up, you would all say, I'm really stressed and I've not got enough time. So empathy is one of those skills that you have to be conscious to use, which is why I do the work I do, to encourage you to think about this. Now, I love my work, but I particularly love my work when a company like Daikin comes to me and says, can you talk about this? Because your business was built on this. Okay? Your business has been built with PCM, with people at the heart of your DNA. You have always been about people. So the reality is, in order to take that now into this chaotic world that's out there, you have to really think about. If I asked you to put your hands up, I won't because it's a bit personal. But if I asked you, how many of you have changed your life choices a bit since COVID? Because I do this all over the world, I'd bet that 80% of you would say, yeah, something's changed for me in the last 3 years. Since COVID, since the world changed, whether that's how you feel about family or retirement or society in general or your kids, life has changed, right? Do your colleagues know? Probably not, because you're all too busy doing your day jobs, right? So how can you lead people if you don't understand them? As I said, you were born with this. There is no human that doesn't have the need to be understood. All of you want to be understood. You want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be recognized, right? It's human nature. But there is also no human that won't perform better, stay with you all longer, and succeed faster when that is fulfilled. So if you are looking to double or triple or quadruple your business, you have to understand your people to get there. It will be faster and it will be more efficient. And that doesn't matter whether they are new people that are coming in, new and young and fresh and looking for their first title and their first package and their first opportunity. Or it's the people in this room, more established, senior, people who are progressing in their careers. Wherever that is, the continuum is shifting. So understanding those things means you can be more efficient and effective than you can without them. So let's put a little bit of data to this. I have 2 facts. These are from the Business Solver report. This came out last week. So this is all really, really new data. It's a large study. It's over 6,000 people. It's around the world. So these are not small numbers. 76% of people say that their motivation is higher and they will work longer hours for an empathetic leader. So when they feel that you're listening, and I'm going to talk about listening just now, but when your people feel like you're looking them in the eye and you're listening, they'll work longer and harder because they want to. Now, why is that? Because performance matters to nearly everyone. To nearly everybody is driven by some type of performance. This data is hard to read on the screen, but what it shows is that amongst employees, particularly the yellow column here, they're saying, yes, we want empathetic leadership. Yes, we want you to listen to us. But that's not in a vacuum of performance. We want to be responsible, we want accountability, we want business growth, we understand the bottom line, and all of those things come in a package. So as I said earlier, this is not about emotion. This is about understand me so I can drive your business better. People want to drive your business. None of these numbers go lower than 84%. That means the minimum is 84% of people saying we want to perform better to grow the bottom line. So empathy is your enabler to improving performance. This one is mind-blowing. 79% of people, so nearly 80% of people, say they will leave their job, their experience, and their industry for a more empathetic employer. That's 80% of people saying they will walk out on everything they know just to make sure they've got a boss that can actually understand who they are. And this, of course, has had a massive impact since COVID, Great Resignation, silent quitting, all those trends going on in the world are because of this. Because employees don't feel that their leadership are listening to them, particularly the younger generations. They are not like you. They just want you to recognize that. They want you to look them in the eye and say, I understand you're different. Tell me why. The minute you've done that, you shift that engagement. Now, the data behind this is also really interesting. What you'll see on this graph is that connection to the workplace is very different from connection to leadership. So the yellow bar, which is employees, what you're seeing on the top one here is that 79, so 80% of people say they feel connected to work, but only 60% say they feel connected to their leadership teams. There's a massive gap. People are coming into the workplace, they quite like the workplace, they like their colleagues, but they don't have a connection with their senior leadership. And I'll show you a piece later that shows this is just going down and down and down. If you continue to lose them, they will just keep leaving. That loyalty that you guys have had, and I saw in the audience how many of you have been here for 20 or 30 years, is not the norm anymore. If we don't fill that gap, they won't stay. And you will put them through all these training programs, and they'll qualify and they'll leave. You have to fill the gap. They have to feel that they know who leadership is. Now, this is a really, really important slide, okay? This is not an HR issue. All the HR people in the room, I put it in for you. HR will not fix this. You will fix this, okay? This is a leadership reality. This has nothing to do with HR. What HR will do as your partners is put the programs, the training, the incentives into place that you guys come up with. Because you know your people. They don't know them all. They can't possibly know them all. Go to the source of the change and understand it. Because I promise you, it will be worth it. You will see the results. You have to invest the time, but it will come back. So fundamentally, this is quite a transformative journey. Guys, I'm asking quite a lot of you. You have to make the shift. You have to start to listen. You have to start to lean in to those people. This is about evolution. But it wouldn't be fair of me to tell you all of that and then not tell you how to do it. So I'm going to give you 3 steps to perhaps think about so that you can start to move towards some of these principles. The first one is around that multi-generational workforce. We have to recognize it. We have to move that opinion away from, we've always been here, and this is, I'm not talking to Daikin here, I'm talking to mass general business, right? The people at the top say, well, I've been here forever, you must do it my way. It worked. Probably I was the last generation, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I was probably the last generation to come through and say, cool, All the people at the top say so, I'm going to do it, okay? Now my team, nearly all of them are under 27. They don't listen to a word I say. They copy me, they'll follow me, but they'll also tell me, why are you doing it like that? That's not the way we should do it anymore, okay? So you have to recognize those gaps. The expectations have changed. What you expected from an employer, from a 10-year reward, from a 15-year career, they don't care. Any of you that have got teenagers will know, right? The stuff you thought was cool, clearly, nowhere near. Just the stuff you think is normal, they don't think is normal, right? Expectations have changed. And this is not just age. It's not only an age thing. As I said, COVID shifted our world so much that when you look at the very senior members of your team, what they're looking for from retirement has shifted. And I'll give you an example, not that I'm retiring anytime soon, but I went to a meeting recently with a financial advisor, and he was helping me plan my future finances for my family, my kids. And he said, well, Mimi, what age do you want to retire? And I looked at him and I said, I don't ever want to retire. Why would I retire? I mean, it is completely beyond me and most of my generation to think, like, who wants to retire? I don't want to retire, right? But for my father, he waited his whole career to retire. He planned, right? He planned his money and his golf and all those things. He was waiting to retire. Me and none of my friends, none of us ever want to retire. The thought of stopping work is like, we're going to be old and no, we never want to do that, right? Expectations have changed. What you were striving for, your kids and these younger generations aren't. That requires flatter structures and open conversation. That doesn't mean the entire company structure has to change. Maybe in your smaller teams, but how do you enable conversation? I hear all the time, all around the world, I work a lot in India. I know we're not in the India region today, but I hear this all the time, which is, he tells me I must say I should use the phone. I say I'm going to Instagram them. He tells me I'm lazy, okay? All around the world. Just because they are not using the same platforms as you does not mean they are less efficient than you, okay? You used to call your sales guys. Maybe you still do. Maybe they want to WhatsApp them or Snapchat them or Insta them. They will probably still get the same results. So how you did it and how they do it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it different. The title they might want, you might think, but that is a ridiculous title. Who cares, right? It motivates them. If that's what they want, give it to them, right? The rewards they want have changed. They may not want a thing. They may not even want money. They may want to know that with their next promotion, you donate X money to saving tigers in Mongolia. I don't know, right? But the reality is the rewards they want have changed. It doesn't matter. If it makes them work harder and achieves your goals, roll with it. But the good news, because I know I'm saying a lot of really big things, is that yes, the mindset is shifting. Yes, there's a whole lot of new things to learn. But the reality is, as humans, and I say this every day around the world, is we are all more alike than we are different. What makes us human will always be the same. And I want to play a video for you just to exemplify this point. That for you, because the first one of those movies was in 1964. Did anybody notice they've just made the same movie every year since 1964, okay? And you are all still watching it. and your fathers are watching it, and your kids are watching it, and my kids will probably watch it, okay? Because it has all the elements that we love. It has drama and love and suspense and intrigue and cars and beautiful women and all of these things that are never going to change. So the reason I use that is to say that yes, mindsets are shifting, and yes, that can be intimidating, but find comfort in the fact that humanity isn't. The things that we all want at work when we talk about being seen and heard are the same. This is your talent, this is your existing teams, and this is your clients, your B2B to C people, and your customers. How you sell. When was the last time that you changed the way that you're selling your product? Now, I want to give you a quick example that you can take with you, and I won't have time to talk about it at length, so please find me afterwards if you want me to explain more. But confirm and correct is a really simple way that all of you can take this away and do it with your teams immediately. And all it is that when you speak to someone, anyone, a customer, a team member, ask them for their opinion, and then repeat back to them when they finished the last 10 or 12 words. So say, Mimi, I heard you say that you want me to understand you don't want to do this because the timeline isn't going to work and you think we should move production. What that allows me to do is confirm, yes, that is what I said, thank you, or not quite. I didn't say it was the timelines that was the problem. I said it was a resource issue. Using confirm and correct makes you ensure that you're hearing and makes your audience feel heard. The second point of the 3 tips is basically listening. Moving from emotional intelligence, which everybody talks about all the time, EQ, that's about you. EQ is understanding yourself in a room of people. Social intelligence is your ability to communicate with others. Okay, and I know you guys have been doing some training in this as well. Fundamentally, I'm going to speed up because of time, but fundamentally, this is about listening. Only 59% of people view their leadership as empathetic. This is data from last week. It is down 10 points since last year. Okay, we are in a downward spiral. Leadership teams are not listening to their people. But fundamentally, curiosity is the core to success. You know this in your business. When you're trying to innovate, when you're trying to change, you ask questions. And if you can't do it, somebody in your leadership team is asking you, well, why not? You say, well, because it's quite an insurmountable goal. But the listening part of that is the critical part. Listen to understand versus listening to reply. How often have you sat in a meeting and you're hearing what is going on, but actually in your head, you're already preparing the answer as to the why or the how? You're not listening to them, you're hearing them, but you're not listening. The second part is understanding that often, particularly with younger generations, just hearing them is all that matters. It's not about agreement. Empathy is not about agreement. It doesn't matter if you do not agree. That's cool, that's your opinion. We're not talking about opinion. We're talking about hearing. And the last piece, again, particularly with younger generations who can be known to be demanding, shall we say, acknowledgement is often equal to action. If they come to you with a stream of things they want and you're sitting there thinking, I don't know who they think they are, but we're never going to achieve that, right? Just hear them. You don't have to act to empathize. You just have to make them feel heard in that moment. That's why half the world is in therapy, right? People just want to be heard. So listen to them. I promise you, it will make a massive shift. My tip for this one is to use the phrase, what's stopping you? Next time someone, anyone, comes to you and says, I'm really sorry, sir, I don't think I can do that. I can't make that deadline. The PowerPoint won't be ready. The factory can't do it. Instead of asking them why, ask them what's stopping you. It's based on neuroscience. You will see their eyes move up or down. It depends on how they neuroprocess, but they are accessing their subconscious mind. And when you do that, the level of insight incrementally increases. You can also try it with your kids, with your toddlers, with your teenagers, who I'm pretty sure are the same thing, and see what happens. What's stopping you? As far as I'm concerned, 2023 will be the year when listening leadership goes mainstream. Because there is a need for this. There is a need for all of you, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, to talk less and listen more. The more you listen, the more you will find out. The third one of the three is that change is a mindset. And I know I've said a lot of things in this 30 minutes, and sometimes that can be really intimidating because there's all these young people coming into the business that want things that you don't understand. But with the size and scale of your business, with the amount of diversification and acquisition that you guys are doing, comes diversity. And that's not just diversity that you read in the newspapers about color and creed and background and age, but it's opinion and need sets and style. You have to embrace it. Because if you don't, somebody else will. The employee revolution is already here. You can't stop these changes. They've already happened. So what have I said today? I've said 3 key things. I said that curiosity, listening, and understanding are the foundation to mitigating risk as you guys go through this massive amount of growth that is ahead of you. It will protect you in these changing times, but it will also speed up your success. Because successful evolution in PCM with your people is a shared journey. You have always spoken of trust and responsibility. What I have done here is just put empathy above it. Empathy is the data set to build the trust and the responsibility of the future. Because if you can pull everyone in, together you will win. I get up every day because of this one statement. I believe that the more the world talks about empathy, the more empathy the world will have. And ladies and gentlemen, there has never been a time when our world, your people, need more empathy than right now. So that leaves me just with this final slide that says, are you listening? Will you listen? Thank you for listening.